right, so of course I'll be talking about Aqualectra and the energy transition we've been leading, what we've been doing at our end, and I can use, from today till tomorrow to talk about everything that we've been doing, but I'll try to do it in a half an hour or less. At first, I'll begin with setting the stage and making sure to present you where we are now. So what we're doing and where we are now. We'll talk about the road ahead, what the future holds. We'll also share a little bit of the economic impact, how we're catalyzing the transformation, the energy transformation, and of course, it's the island transformation as well. How we're leading the change, our commitment to leading that change, and at last, of course, talking about the vision that is worth building together. Where we stand today, I'd like to stop and start by saying that the energy future of Curaçao is no longer on the horizon. It's at our doorstep, so it's happening as we speak. We might want to turn our heads for it, we might want to not pay attention to it, but it's truly, truly happening in front of our eyes. And that's something that none of us can deny anymore. The way the transition is happening by, let me say, popular demand, not even guided by much policies or incentives or anything, but just happening, it's impressive. Curaçao is no longer on the horizon, it's at our doorstep and happening from grassroots, let me say it like that, and not even guided by a lot of policies. We'll start by talking about the demand growth, of course. Last year, 2024, we've had the biggest demand in the history of the company. So it grew by 9% from compared to the year before. The staffels, there are tariff groups. So the lowest one, the yellow one, is household customers. You see that is growing. You see that commercial customers is growing. You see that industrial customers. So every single tariff group is growing in terms of demand. We've hit almost 700,000 megawatt hours in sales, which is above and beyond pre-COVID levels. So you see that pre-COVID, we had a declining trend in demand. This is COVID, 2020. Pre-COVID level would be 654,000 megawatt hours, which has been a declining trend for a few years already. 2016 was a peak, because energy prices, fuel prices in 2016 were really, really low at that point. Electricity tariffs were also lower, people used more. So that was an exception on the trend, but the trend has been going down for a few years already. And you see what happened in 2024. Of course, it's beyond what has been happening for the years before. It's being of course, guided by temperature, the climate changes, and the economic developments. If we see in terms of the what happened during the year for temperature changes, you see that we've been, the blue line would be 2024. We've been above, around 2 to 3 degrees warmer during the whole year. The only month that we were less warm was coincidentally September, which is normally the warmest month, but it was below what was recorded in the years before. The pointer is not working, but I'll try to then just talk about it. When you see the tourism, the stayover tourism, and these are figures that are, I guess, known to all of you, the blue line being 2024, the yellow line being 2023, and the gray line being 2022. You see how it's moving and how it's truly surpassing all indices that we had before, which of course has an impact on the sales of electricity. This is a graph showing the peak demand, and the peak demand is the maximum amount of capacity you would need in at any given point in the month, so the maximum amount of capacity. You see that September, being the warmest month, is the month we need to hold more capacity than any other month. No energy company, no electricity company likes to have higher peaks because you want to have more stable production. You don't want higher peaks because you have to hold capacity that is there for the remaining time, just standing there and not producing anything. So you don't want bigger peaks or differences in peaks a lot. But what is happening now is that you see September is our biggest peak. You see how the peak grew from the year before. So year on year, it's growing. Then this orange line here is 2025. So we see 2025, with the exception of February, it's growing again. You see March, we peaked around what we peaked normally the years before, 2024, the year before, but the years before, you see what it used to be in March, you see what it used to be in February, you see what it used to be in January. So what's happening is that these months, where normally we don't peak that high, which are months that we maintain our machines, we do more maintenance, we don't need to hold many machines available. It's changing now, and it's really going up, which is truly changing the way we do business and the way we are planning our capacity forward as well. Some pain points we're experiencing. Of course, the cost of electricity is something that has our attention. It's been having our attention for years now. It's something that everybody complains about. We know that too. I must say that it's the one thing that everybody complains about, where in countries where the electricity is almost zero also. So that's the one thing that everybody would always complain about. So the cost of electricity is one of the pain points that we do recognize. Changing grid dynamics is also something that it's truly top of mind. More solar panels in the grid. The grid is changing in ways and growing in ways that it's very, very fast. Aging infrastructure is also something that we truly pay attention to, making sure that we maintain, making sure that we replace also grid and machinery in time. Lack of policy development. And when I say lack of policy development, I mean specifically also in terms of where electrification is going and what's the end in mind for our country. So countries are already determining, for instance, when will no fossil fuel cars not be imported anymore in the country. Policies such as construction permits given out with, you need to have isolation, you need to have solar panels, for instance, things that would help in managing the growth. But the lack of policy development is also one of the things that we would, if we knew, for instance, that, at 2040 or 2050, make it 2060 if you want, no fossil fuel cars will be imported anymore. You can start by preparing for it. Any car, any electric vehicle that you see driving around is the equivalent of an average household for us. The usage of any car would be the equivalent of that. So more or less. So more electrification in mobility, which we think is a very good thing to do, not only for our sales, but also for the environment. For it, it makes sense for Curaçao, but we need to be able to be in the driver's seat as well, and making sure that our grid is prepared for that. So it's important for us to pivot. It's important for us to change. It's important for us to truly lead this. And the point is, how do we pivot, and how can we pivot with purpose? The purpose should always be reliability, affordability, and sustainability. So those are our key driving forces towards every change that we are doing. So if we stop with recent progress, what we've done so far up to 2024, we focused on maintenance of plants to increase availability. So our plants have been more available, and you'll see that the impact thereof in tariffs in terms of interruptions as well. We focused on the change of the fuel we use, the type of fuel we use, and we started using marine fuel oil more than marine gas oil. I'll go into that in a minute as well. We've increased wind capacity with 22 megawatts to reach 50% renewable energy penetration. That's a well-known project to all of you, the Curaçao project. We've conducted grid capacity, a capacity study, grid stability, grid structure, and grid protection study to increase reliability. So these are all studies very much needed to make sure that our grid and our production capacity is enough to cope with the growth. And we have a lot of ongoing investment projects to increase production and grid capacity. So you see grid projects going on pretty much all over the island. And also, I think he's waiting for, see, grid production, production and grid capacity studies. So tangible results that we've booked so far. I just said our sales of electricity grew by 9%, sales of water grew by 4% in 2024 compared to 2023. Our average electricity tariff reduced. It was 70 cents on average, but in 2023, 60 cents, 66 cents in 2024, 6% reduction, 3% reduction in water tariff. This is 2024. Our EBITDA grew by 6% due to better cost management, making sure our machines are available, and making sure we did our maintenance well for us to have the least cost option at any point in time to be deployed. Our accounts receivables increased by 3% despite the increase of 9% in sales. So that means our day sales outstanding decreased by 17%. Our CAPEX, we did 156% more CAPEX than the year before and more than any other given year before. 177 million in CAPEX in 2024. Our non-revenue reduced by 15%. Electricity and non-revenue water, LEC for lease, reduced by 2%. And our number of employees reduced by 3% in 2024. In terms of operational figures, we had 7% more grid interruptions. So we have on an annual basis around 12,000 grid interruptions, and we're talking about the small Pagatino interruption to a barrio interruption to cable to fleet ding 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 to auto kutadal ding those everything 12,000 in total. We had 7% more during 2024, but we handled them in 12.5% less time than the year before. So we handled the average handling time of an interruption reduced by 12.5%. We had 29% less interruptions of plants. So this is, you have the grid, you can have an interruption based on the grid, and you can have interruptions based on plant. We had 29% less plant interruptions, no blackouts, thank God. Our plant interruptions in minutes reduced also. So we had, if it took us in 2023 111 minutes to come back from a plant interruption, it took us 59 minutes in 2024. Our overall plant availability grew by 5%, so it was 84.5 in 2023 and 89, almost 89% in 2024. Why is this very important? Because at any given point in time, we can then deploy the least cost option of our machines. If we don't maintain our machines, they're not available at any point in time. We just need to start whatever we have available at that point, and it might be the most expensive machine. It might not be the cheapest machine. A renewable energy penetration, despite the growth in sales, grew by 4%. We had 28% in 2023, 29% in 2024. And we used 6% more fuel in 2024, but that's despite a 9% growth in sales. So we were more efficient in 2024. In terms of water supply, we had 1% more grid interruption. The duration of grid interruptions increased a lot. And we do have, so it increased by 32%. 32%, I think, there. So we had, it took us 1,386 minutes to fix a water grid interruption, which is 32% more than the year before. And that is because the availability of contractors in a year prior to elections is very low. So a water interruption, you need to excavate sometimes, you need to truly dig, you need to do more things. So the availability of contractors plays a role there. We had less plant interruptions. What it took us to come back from a plant interruption from water also decreased, and our plant availability grew by 4%. We handled almost 40,000 customers last year, 132,000 phone calls. We did more disconnections, and our revenue protection inspections. So we made sure to inspect the grid more and detect theft more. In terms of tariff developments, who's Ronald Liu? Is he here? There he is. Yeah, hi, Mr. Liu. This is something you published, and of course you took from, I think it was August, September 2024 to now, and you see the declining trend. What happened in January, you mentioned also in your analysis that the only month it went up was January. Sorry, Patrick, but it was the month that global oil's costs were incorporated, the beruchte discussie that we had in the summer. So it was the month that the costs were incorporated. But what Mr. Liu mentioned is that the reason for the decrease was the new wind parks, and lower fuel prices. But of course, what Mr. Liu didn't know is that what really happened is that we had higher availability of our plants, making sure that we can dispatch the lowest cost option at any point in time. We changed to marine fuel oil. We used another fuel oil. And the effect of the new wind park came in after January 2025. So the decrease has been visible before that. To go into the fuel prices specifically, we can go about the fuel prices of WTI, but we do have the local prices because we use, of course, fuel imported by Curaçao. And you see that marine gas oil has been decreasing, but marine fuel oil has been pretty much stable throughout the year. It doesn't say much if you don't know how much we use of each one of those products. And this is what we use. I said we changed because marine fuel oil is the cheapest fuel type. So we changed to a cheaper fuel type. And you see it also that at the beginning of the year, we started using more marine fuel oil or marine gas oil. You see the blue bar is the marine gas oil, which is the more expensive fuel type. And we changed it throughout the year because by changing fuel types is also a huge endeavor. You need to change machine by machine. The fuel injectors need to be changed. There's a lot of work to be done there to change fuel types. So you see that we started using marine gas oil with the use of marine gas oil more, and gradually we started using marine fuel oil more. The price of marine fuel oil is pretty much stable, so that didn't really influence our tariffs. It's the change that influenced our tariffs. And then if you can see the usage, apart from having more marine fuel oil than marine gas oil in the fuel type we use, it's also, of course, becoming less because of the renewable energy penetration. Economic context, this is, I mean, the breakdown of inflation. Probably you know it. I don't have to go through everything in it, but you see during the year how it went from month to month, how the inflation index changed from month to month. We, of course, fall under the category of housing, and this is energy, and this is water. Energy dropped with the exception of May and March, because Mr. Liu started his analysis in September, but the change didn't start in September. It started from the beginning of the year, and you see what happened with energy. Hadn't this happened during the year 2024, this would have been a lot different. So when we talk about an inflation figure of, it was 3.6% if I'm not mistaken, in 2024, hadn't we done what we did during 2024, it would have been much more. Our total fuel expenses, we reduced it by 20 million guilders in 2024 compared to the years before, despite the 9% sales. So even with a 9% sales in sales growth in 2024, we reduced our fuel expense by 20 million guilders. And that's through the change of fuel type through marine fuel oil. We are conducting an economic impact study now, and preliminary results show that we, Aqualectra, contributed to the GDP growth with approximately 2% of the growth. We lowered the inflation rate with 0.13 points. And we delivered 35 million guilders in additional tax revenues for the year 2024, additional than what we do normally. We created more than 350 jobs during the year 2024 as a result of our investments. But how do we do in comparison with the region? To compare with the region, there are a few very important aspects to be taken into account. Our infrastructure, which is more complicated than many islands. The number of inhabitants per square kilometers is an important input because we are very much spread out over Curaçao. No, so dicht bevolkt. That means that expanding the grid to Bandabao and to Bandariba and to it costs. Past urban planning choices are very crucial. So in fact, going through hills and putting pumps all over the place, and they are crucial to our expense level. Our geographical conditions are also very important. We are a very hilly island. We're not flat, we're hilly. And the correlation of total energy use and peak load. So our peak demand versus what is the average energy use you have. Because if you have, like I said at the beginning, if you have a high peak, you have unused capacity for a lot of time, where if the capacity you have can be employed and dispatched more steady, the cost level is also manageable. This is the Caribbean. This is, and to Mr. Liu's comparison as well, because he cited the comparison with Aruba afterwards. You can't compare tariff to tariffs because you have to look at the tariff structure. And what CARILEC does, they do a total bill comparison. You can't compare like what 1 kilowatt hour costs here and what 1 kilowatt hour costs there, because it's just, you need to look into the total bill. Like Aruba has a fixed tariff, a fixed component of the tariff, and then or a capacity charge, let me put it like that, and then you have the kilowatt hour price. So you need to do the total bill component. Aruba didn't participate in the CARILEC study, but I have here all the islands. This is Curaçao. This is the average, and this is for the total bill comparison for residential customers using 400 kilowatt hours a month. So there we are. This is the line where Curaçao is, and there's the average. So we are approximately a little bit higher than the average, but what you see is that islands below us are bigger islands. Or bigger countries, Belize, Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago is the lowest one because they run on gas. Then you have Puerto Rico, for instance. St. Kitts and Nevis are also pretty low. Barbados is an island pretty much comparable to us, and you see also where they are. So a household using 400 kilowatt hours per month, I said per hour, per month during 2024, paid in Barbados on average $127 a month, and we paid $129 a month on average. If you do it for commercial customers using using 2,000 kilowatt hours a month, there's Curaçao, there's the average, and here's where we are at. So we're not pretty much far. Both sides, we're not very far from the average. And when you look again, who's below that average line, would be Trinidad, would be Suriname, would be Puerto Rico, would be Guyana. Here's Barbados. So here's Curaçao, here's Barbados. Belize, those are the ones that are. And I must say Barbados is a comparable island in size with us, but their number of inhabitants are, of course, more than twice than what we are. So their fixed cost is also spread over a bigger community. This is the comparison of industrial customers using 100,000 kilowatt hours per month. There's Curaçao, there's the average, here's the line. So in fact, we are pretty much around average in the Caribbean. So when we beat ourselves to that we're so expensive here in Curaçao, but when we look around us, we are not that bad. Around average, and with islands, again, look at, but look at Barbados, a little bit higher than us there, same picture for the other tariff groups as well. But we like to compare ourselves with Netherlands as well, right? So let's compare ourselves with Netherlands. During 2024, the average tariff per kilowatt hour in Netherlands was, in Curaçao was 66 cents, like I said. Netherlands, it was 30 euro cents, so 57 cents when translated in guilders. So we were 16% higher than the Netherlands in 2024 on average. Now, per April 2025, Curaçao is at 56 cents per kilowatt hour. Hollanda, then 60 cents, so we are 7% lower than Hollanda. With 150,000 inhabitants, Hollanda spreading it out over 17 million people. I'd like to do this comparison as well. This is the tariffs we charge to prosumers, so people that have solar panels. Because the idea out there is that Aqualectra doesn't like solar panels. So this is the tariff. This is Aqualectra. This is the capacity charge for customers that have solar panels. This is the Caribbean average. All these islands that have zero don't have. I mean, they don't allow it. They don't. So this is the Caribbean, and this is Curaçao, and here's where we are. The ones below us would be Saba, which is very much subsidized, and would be Bermuda. Those are the two countries in the Caribbean that is below us. The average terugverdientijd for people's investing in solar panels now, I look at Edwin, I think it's around 3 years. Worldwide, it's 7 years is acceptable. So when people say that we are not incentivizing and that we don't like solar panels, and Curaçao, we don't push for it, the figures show it differently. Our capacity charge is very much lower than the region. The terugverdientijd for return on investment time, the return time for solar panels is way lower than it is globally. So the road ahead, what the future holds. When we define that, of course, we start with our why, our purpose. Why do we do what we do? We do what we do to fundamentally contribute to the well-being of the citizens of Curaçao. That's the purpose of Aqualectra. That's why we wake up every day and go to work every day. And I stand here and telling you all this story with, with pride, because we do it to fundamentally contribute to the well-being of the citizens of Curaçao. Our vision is to lead Curaçao into the future by transforming its utilities. And you would say, how can a single company think about leading Curaçao into the future? Well, it's a company that has every single citizen either as a customer or has a touch point with every single citizen at any point in time. Would you go completely off-grid for water and electricity? You still drive on roads with lights that are maintained by Aqualectra, held by the government, maintained by Aqualectra. You still go into the city, which is powered by Aqualectra. You still have, so in fact, when wind goes down, what machine you start up, when do batteries kick in, you'll have all of that in one system. Next year, or this year, at the end of this year, probably beginning of next year, because we're a little bit delayed there, Mr. Newton. It's a new diesel power plant of 40 megawatts, very important and needed for the growth the island is going into. And we hope to have our smart grid, at least for water and for electricity, also the vast majority fully deployed. 2026, we hope to have load shifting batteries, a new solar park, and 2027 we hope to repower the older wind parks and with more fast reacting batteries. The batteries that came with the wind park, the Curaçao wind park, are currently being deployed. We hope to have them commissioned by June, and then we'll experience also less interruptions due to, wind fluctuations. What the future holds? Vraagteken. The point is we're responsible to deliver electricity and power today. And in every decision we take, we need to be able to remain flexible also to be able to cope with that future. Together with all of that, we did an internal reorganization and we're constructing new headquarters. We're doing the smart LED lights together with the government. We're working on a new water plant. We signed it last year and the construction are commencing this year. We are doing a lot of new projects and initiatives on customer service concepts. So digitalizing, truly transforming our customer service. And when we say transforming, when I say digital transformation, I think for me personally, that will be the biggest challenge we are facing. Digital transformation, it's not digitalisering, it's not converting the forms in PDF. It's truly digital transformation. It's people, it's systems, and it's processes. And when we say people, it's not only internal, but it's external as well. We are deploying our advanced metering infrastructure, and we're doing various grid adjustments to prepare for the increased renewable energy penetration and also the growth of the island. 2012, when we started, we had a total production of 750 gigawatt hours, a renewable energy penetration of 9%. We imported at that point 245,000 metric tons. And for fuel, for mobility, and I mentioned it, although we're not responsible for mobility, but when we talk about energy, it does include mobility as well. The fuel imported for mobility was 167,000 metric tons. 2024, our total production was 823 gigawatt hours. Our renewable energy penetration, almost 30%. We imported 177,000 metric tons. So we're growing our total production, and we're reducing the amount of metric tons we use. And the total fuel imported for mobility was 150,000 metric tons, more or less. 2030, what we're looking for is 974 gigawatt hours in production, more than 70% renewable energy penetration at that point. The imported fuel for electricity production, less than 110,000 metric tons. And we hope to have much less fuel imported for mobility, around 112,000, because what we truly will be leading on is also the electrification of mobility as well. Our production mix, you see the green growing in it. And of course, the yellows in it will be new power plants, like how come the meeting? Yeah? Okay. Tariffs, they will continue to decline if the ripple effect of what Mr. Trump is doing in the United States won't hit fuel prices that much. So in only 15 years' time, we would have increased our renewable energy penetration from 9% to 70%. Lower our fuel consumption by 55%, despite the significant increase in sales, and we would have lowered our tariffs more than 20%. Some challenges ahead: workforce transformation. We're going into more data, we're going into more digitalization, more robotization as well. So the transformation of a workforce is truly a challenge. Digital transformation and cyber risk. Cyber risk is also something that's really truly coming up because we've been very good in maintaining our IT and OT, operational technology and information technology, apart from each other. But when with this digitalization, they're coming together, and cyber risk is also something that is truly top of mind with us. Electrification and the lack of policy with electrification. So, like I said just now, let's put as country some important, bold goals in front of us. We are talking about construction of new gas plants and I mean, everybody's cooking electrically now. Why are we constructing, why are we investing in more gas production or gas? Those are electrification steps that we can take together and make sure that we truly change what we have. Mobility is also something. Economic developments and lack of policies also, like the constructions that are all going on the island, how are we dealing with those? How are we making sure that those houses are isolated, that they come with solar panels, that we make sure also that they're constructed with ways that we can all grow together? We can't continue to construct plants to build new power plants like that. We need to make sure that our customers become our partners in this. And of course, energy poverty, which is also very much top of mind, because at the end, energy needs to be a commodity that everybody has access to. So we need all hands on deck. We need regional collaboration, because we're not the only ones in this. I just showed you what the region looks like, and everybody's experiencing this growth. Everyone is experiencing outages throughout the year. Everybody is experiencing the same development, so we need regional collaboration. We need private sector involvement. We need to make sure that all those constructions and every investment that comes along is also mindful of where we're going in terms of the energy transformation. We need a regulator that understands, and they do. It's not that they don't, but of course, with the changing dynamics, they need to continue to understand where we're going. We need community engagement to make sure that everybody does their part, not only to electrify, not only to build and make sure that we use energy efficient, but also invest in ways to reduce their energy consumption more. So in the next years, the next 5 years, we're planning to invest over 600 billion in the grid and in production capacity facilities. The job creation is more than 150 jobs per year with the investments that we have going on. We plan to continue to lower the energy costs, again, taking the ripple effect of Mr. Trump's decisions into account. But if everything goes in conformity with what we've been seeing now, the negative inventory effect year on year will be visible. The balance of payment and foreign exchange reserves with less import on fuels, it's an impact of more than 100 million guilders less import on fuel, so it will have a balance of payment effect and an effect on our foreign exchange reserves as well. Resiliency and self-sufficiency, which is very important. I think personally that the only way we can go about those geopolitical threats and challenges in the world is by being resilient and self-sufficient. That means making sure that we produce our own food to a very large extent, but also our own energy. If we electrify as much as possible, we drive electric, we cook electric, we don't need fuel to do those kind of things, and we make sure to produce that electricity with local resources, then Mr. Trump can do whatever he wants, we won't be impacted that much. And of course, new sectors and skills, because the way it's going, we need different workforce, we need different capacities as well. So our commitment is to lead this change, because we're not just adapting, but we're actively leading. We've taken very bold decisions in the past, in the recent past years, and we're taking even bolder ones during the years to come. But we need every one of you to keep us sharp. So I welcomed the analysis of Mr. Liu. Those kind of analysis, yeah, keep us sharp. And help us shape policies and become partners to accelerate the transition. Because in the end, It's a vision that's worth building together.